Good afternoon and welcome to the May 14th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. My name is Steve Brandt and I'm the president of the board. Before we begin the meeting, I would ask the clerk to offer our reminder to the public and anyone else participating orally in this broadcast.
I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments.
At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify the presence of a quorum.
Member Fry.
Here.
Abene.
Here.
Payne is absent. Chugtai.
Present.
Vice President Priest-Stinson.
Present.
President Brandt.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record show that we have a quorum. I will now offer an acknowledgement that we meet today on the land of the Dakota. We'll proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access at the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Board members, the agenda for today's meeting before us, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next is the acceptance of minutes from our April 23rd meeting. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion before us. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Okay, the ayes have it, and the minutes are adopted as presented. Item 4 is the acceptance on the agenda. On the agenda today is the acceptance of public comment. The clerk informs me that we have nobody signed up to speak today, so we'll continue on to the next item on our agenda with just a reminder that members of the public are able to take advantage of the opportunity to speak to the Board of Estimate and Taxation on an item that is on that day's agenda for up to 2 minutes, and I've encouraged people to we encourage our public to take advantage of that. Item number 5 is receiving a debt, I will ask the clerk to, I guess I would ask the clerk to receive and file the comments, but we have no comments. So item number 5 on the agenda is receiving a debt presentation from the Director of Banking, Investments, and Debt. David Wheeler, Senior Manager, will present the annual list of not yet bonded amounts of currently authorized capital projects.
Good afternoon, President Brandt and Commissioners. I'm Dave Wheeler, Senior Manager of Banking, Investments, and Debt. Given the presentation on behalf of Director Alan Hoppy and our division. So I will present our annual summary of the city indebtedness, as well as present the currently outstanding bonding authorizations for city projects, and then briefly at the end just touch on kind of some preliminary preview of the city's 2025 various purpose bond issue. We will expect to come back in June for the formal authorizing and awarding resolutions for the BET to continue on in the bond issuance process. And to start with, I wanted to just touch on some, good news. It's not new to anyone, but I think bears repeating. City's bond ratings, we currently hold 3 AAA ratings from the national credit rating agencies. Standard & Poor's and Fitch have maintained AAA ratings for the city for the past few years at least. And then at the end of 2024, beginning of 25, as part of its annual surveillance rating, Moody's Investor Service upgraded the city to AAA. So as the mayor noted last week in the State of the City address, we expect we're one of about 20, maybe 30 cities in the entire nation to have 3 AAA bond ratings. So I think a recognition of the city's financial management, leadership, and governance. And confidence from the market that we'll meet our obligations and pay our debt service. And I think just a good recognition, so wanted to, again, point that out. At the end of 2024, the city had $843 million in debt outstanding. Most of that comes in the form of our tax-supported or levy-funded debt, $325 million. Near that amount is the enterprise-funded debt, that is bonds payable by the enterprise funds funding the infrastructure and capital projects for sewer, stormwater, and water utilities. Those debts are paid back from revenues. We've pledged revenues of the utilities to pay that debt service. We do have our general obligation pledge on those. If revenue was ever insufficient to pay debt service, we would levy taxes in order to pay that, but to my knowledge, we've never had to do that. Our Public Works Department works diligently to ensure we do have adequate revenue coverage ratios to pay that debt service. The remaining debt types, we have fairly smaller amounts relative. I'll just note Park Board under $5 million in debt outstanding at the end of last year. And then specifically that convention center amount of $26 million, that was the refunding issue in 2020. That whole amount is due on December 1st of this year, so we'll retire that entire issue outstanding. And then just a brief look at the history of our debt outstanding at year-end, going back a decade. We have, starting on the far left, this past year, it's been relatively consistent nominal increases year over year, kind of along with our capital planning. We've kind of progressed according to our expectations. And I will just note, kind of on an inflation-adjusted basis, we're kind of at or below our past balances. So very consistent debt load. And then a look at the city's debt capacity. This is a statutory debt limit that is set forth in state statutes. It sets a debt limit of tax-supported debt that the cities can issue, applicable to all cities in the state. Mostly, it's 3% of the taxable market value. For cities such as Minneapolis, St. Paul, cities of the first class, the limit is actually set at 3 2/3% of that taxable market value. So our legal debt limit is $2.5 billion. We don't have anywhere near that outstanding. Obviously, at year end, we had debt outstanding that was applicable to this limit. Again, primarily levy-funded debt of $313 million. So about a 12.6% usage of that debt limit. And then just for reference, we presented this last year and updated it again for this year, just to kind of give a picture of the debt limit utilization throughout neighboring communities. These are the largest 15 city issuers in the state. It's a busy graph, but what is presented here is each city's debt limit, as well as on the green dot, that percentage of debt outstanding that is applicable to that limit. So I think first and foremost what jumps out is just the magnitude of our limit comparatively of other issuers around. And I'll note that orange dotted line is just the average of the issuers, so around 11% is that average usage of issuers. We're kind of right in line with that, just a hair above at 12% versus 11% for most of the issuers. And then this is a look, again, that debt limit was a limit against the taxable market value in the city. This is a look at the outstanding tax-supported debt the city has as compared to its tax capacity. President Brandt, I think you had asked about a data point like this last year, so we've included again. I think it's an interesting look just to see And the difference here is this is just the tax capacity, so of course the ratio looks a little higher. We're at about 40% of that tax capacity. In green is the applicable debt, tax-supported levy-funded debt. Blue is the trend of our tax capacity. Again, trending up nominally each year. We're up at around 40%. As we can see, the tax capacity is off peak values of 2023, so ticking up a little. But the other thing I'll note is that is all of the tax-supported debt outstanding. So this is essentially saying, 40% of our tax capacity this year, but that is the entire debt outstanding. In reality, we levy about $55 million for debt service this year, equates to about 7% of that tax capacity value. So those are just kind of some of the highlights, the city indebtedness at the year end. I can take any questions on that, but I also wanted to present to the board the current list of outstanding bonding authorizations. This is a summary page. You should have the exhibit in the meeting packets as well. I'll apologize for the readability of the tables coming up. A lot of data, very small tables, hard to read, but you can refer to your packets, hopefully, for any specific project questions. These are the authorizations approved by council. We are carrying over $142 million from prior years. That is bonding authorizations that weren't used for various reasons. $81 million in utility enterprise bonds and $60 million of levy-funded bonds. In the end of 2024, as a part of the budget resolutions, council approved $58 million of enterprise bonds, $102 million in levy-funded debt, and $9 million of assessment bonds for a total of $313 million in authorizations outstanding. Again, that's bonds yet to be issued. We don't obviously issue all of that every single year, depending on what projects are ready to be funded. But this is a fairly typical balance that we carry in outstanding authorizations.
Mr. Wheeler, if I could interrupt for a minute. While we're on this page, it looks like the ratio between enterprise and levy-funded is quite a bit different in the authorized 2025 as opposed to the prior authorization. And I wondered if there's a factor or a series of factors that have contributed to that. We had more enterprise bonds than levy-funded in the previous years, and now in 2025, in what's authorized to be issued, we have much more in levy-funded.
Yeah, President Brandt. So a lot of it is just projects that for various reasons have not needed or been ready to issue bonds as far as project construction costs, not expected or not used. So the 2025 ratio is a pretty typical ratio. We typically will see a higher balance of levy-funded bonds approved, authorizations approved. There's just been, for various reasons, enterprise projects that have not needed or been able to issue their bonds. So that's an accumulation going back several years of authorizations not utilized or not issued on.
And would that be mainly related, for example, one that comes to mind is the projects that were slated in the Roof Depot site as part of the Public Works complex, but the city apparently is moving in a different direction. I assume those would be funded by enterprise revenues primarily.
Yes, President Brandt, that is one of the projects that does have an accumulation. We've not issued on bonds on that project in quite a while, so they do have a number of outstanding authorizations.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like the clerk to note that Commissioner Payne is in the meeting. Go ahead.
Sure. And so I have included, I said that I've included the table and the slide. I'll skip through if anyone has specific questions on any of the authorizations. Happy to take those now.
Are there questions on the authorizations? Commissioner Benny.
Yes, and now I can't, you're right, I can't, you promised me that I wouldn't be able to see it, and I can't. And I also did look at it briefly, but we just got the tables today, as far as I know, so.
Okay.
But there was one in there, and I'm just a nerd for PV001, which is toward the end, it's a paving or streets project, and it's $700,000, the first one there, I can actually almost make it out. I'm reading the bottom level of the eye chart right now, but what year, do you know what year that would have been authorized?
Commissioner Ebony, PV001 for $706,000 was approved at the end of 2024, so for the
24?
2025 budget.
Okay, so these were only the 25 ones in these tables?
No, these tables include anything outstanding.
Okay.
So there should, again, I apologize, hard to read. We do reference the resolution and date and project and code in there.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Sure. Certainly.
So the PB001, again, it's one of the things that I'm really keenly interested in the city's overall budget, but that was increased beyond, it was historically 700,000 or 750. And it was increased, in the last couple of years. So was this the total authorization for that line item or the remaining authorization for that line item?
So, Commissioner Ebony, these represent just the total for each line item. So, $706,000 was approved in Resolution 2024-R-445. So I can't speak to the outstanding balance. I don't believe. I believe anything that had been previously authorized has probably been issued. But I would defer to Public Works, and I can answer that after the meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yep, thank you.
I'd like to hop on that question because, putting on my old click hat, it seems to me we recommended an increase in funding for Parkway paving. And as I recall, Mayor, at one point a year or two ago, you had recommended a increase about 26 or 27. Is that still in the hopper, or has the council taken action to undo that?
I'm going to jump in there. So there is a different amount, I believe, for PV001, and I don't remember the year that it was first planned to increase, but I believe it would have been 24, and by 27 it was supposed to be $2.7 million, but I know the city was looking at more like $3 million because of the condition of the parkways and the requirement that they have equivalent condition on average to city streets, and there is a joint powers agreement about this. So. Yeah, so that can't be changed, but I'll just do a little looking, and this would be the kind of thing where, I might email questions ahead of time on something like this, but yeah. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fry?
That agreement is, of course, periodically renegotiated, and most recently the number went up. I couldn't tell you by exactly how much, but that renegotiation would happen again, I believe, late this year, early next.
Thank you, Commissioner Fry. Are you saying that basically the acceleration that I recall and Commissioner Benny was referring to is still in the pipeline?
I believe so. I don't have any reason to suspect otherwise.
Thank you. Any other questions on this particular section? Okay, proceed, please.
And so again, here's just the summary of our currently outstanding authorizations. And then what we do within the city for each year for the bonding, we take these authorizations, disperse them to the departments to get their planned spending and bonding for this year. And so I wanted to mention just briefly, we are in the midst of working on the 2025 various purpose bond issue. And as I mentioned, we will come back next month at the next meeting on June 11th with planned awarding and authorization resolutions. But right now, our initial indications are requests of bond proceeds of around $135 million. Again, pretty typical. Over the last few years, we've been around $120 to $130 million in bond proceeds requested for each bond sale. $85 million for levy-funded debt, 41 for enterprise, and then 8.5 for assessments. Of course, that might change as we move along, but those are our preliminary indications. We'll have further details and can go a little more in depth next month. And then finally, just as a point of reference, we wanted to point out just where the market is right now. This graph, apologies, hard to read, but working out of Bloomberg, these are the AAA tax exempt rates for Minnesota issues. We showed this last year as well. Each line corresponds to the last time we sold bonds, starting at the bottom in 2021. You can see what the yield curve was like on the day we sold bonds. So 2021, obviously, a lot lower. 2023 is that green line, quite a bit higher. And then 24, and then 22 after that. That blue line at the top represents the current market in 2025. So again, noticeably higher. There's uncertainty and volatility in the market right now. We've seen rates increase. So just setting expectations, and just for your reference, the market is up. Yields are a little higher. So, we do expect an increase in interest costs for the foreseeable future. And that is everything I wanted to cover today. I can stand for any other questions you might have.
Do the members have any questions, please? Commissioner Benny.
Thank you, President Brandt. I'm sorry, I think something occurred to me about PV001, and I hate to sound like, such a nerd on PV001, but it may be that the city has its discretion to choose funding sources for that line item, and so maybe there's only a portion of it that's from bonding, and the remainder is coming from another source. I believe that might actually be what's occurring, so, yeah.
Just to follow on to that, yes, what we represent here is explicitly bonding authorization.
Yes.
So if there's other revenues, they wouldn't be included here. This
Yeah.
is and straight from resolutions from council.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there other questions? Well, I would just like to add my congratulations to the finance staff for the work it has done in connection with the AAA. I realize a lot of players were involved, but you folks are the ones in the trenches, and I appreciate your work and your advice to policymakers, and also the decisions of the policymakers, particularly those on the council and the mayor who make the spending decisions. We here just set the levy limit, but we try to encourage the sort of policies that lead to outcomes like this. I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. So thank you very much for that. And so what you're telling us is that we should expect somewhat higher interest rates in our next sale than we paid a year ago, unless there's a...
Yes, relative to 2024, yes. Of course, there's still some time. Markets can move, but overall, yields are up, interest costs are up.
Okay. And when the convention center, I believe it's the expansion, is paid off in December, I believe I've read in the quarterly budget reports that the convention center is gearing up for a request that would add additional capital spending, bonding to support additional modernization of that facility. Do you have any idea what the scale of that will be compared to the $26 million payment, that was a balloon, wasn't it? That $26 million?
President Brandt, yes, it was we refunded an issue at the time in 2020. It was optionally redeemable. It started in 2022, but yes, it was set to mature all at once in 2025. That full $26 million was the whole issue. As to other capital improvements, financing, and bonding, I'm not aware of anything. I haven't been included, so I won't comment on that.
All right. And I'm wondering, one thing I'm always interested in is what the ratio is between pay-as-you-go funding and bonding, and that may be a little bit outside of your domain, but has there been any notable changes in that? I know the city has had a philosophy in that regard for a number of years.
President Brandt, I could I would defer to follow up after the meeting, but yeah, we do a version of both. Certainly some projects are paid for and then reimbursed with bonding. Some projects are, bonded for at the outset. So it's kind of, I believe, very project-specific cases, but I'd probably take that away and give you a more thoughtful answer.
Generally, because I know you didn't come prepared for that sort of a question, but is the pay-as-you-go higher in the enterprise funds because of the accumulation of revenue in the various water, sewer, and other utility areas like solid waste?
That is something I would probably take away. I'd defer to the enterprise funds first for, I think a confident answer.
Okay. And the last question I have, I'm not sure, I mean, we all in Minnesota operate generally under the same set of debt limits. So to that extent, the chart comparing us to other Minnesota cities is helpful. But do you happen to have anything in your files or off the shelf in terms of comparing us with, say, selected other northern cities because of the challenges of our climate for some of our public infrastructure? I would find that probably, cities sort of comparable size.
President Brandt, yeah, at the moment, we don't have anything off the shelf. Certainly something that we can do. It's an interesting analysis. And yeah, we're working to kind of build out our comparative database of reporting and analytics. So, we started with the local Minnesota cities, but yeah, pretty easy comparison and analysis to do for you.
Okay. I guess I asked that question just because we are the regional center for the Twin Cities, and therefore we have a lot of capacity built into our various utilities that and our other services that maybe a smaller city would not be required to provide. But that's just an observation, and I thank you for your presentation. And if there are no further questions, I will ask the clerk to receive and file, and thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, item number 6 on our agenda is a resolution asking the board to approve the hiring of Christina Keiterling to the position of BET Executive Secretary. Ms. Keiterling is in the room today. She, I'm sure, would be glad to stand for questions, but I will ask her to say a few words if we act favorably upon her hiring. And I think I'd like to ask, even though it got on the agenda, it got on relatively late, and I wondered if the clerks could read the resolution for the benefit of the public.
Resolution number 2025-003, Board of Estimate and Taxation, authorizing the President of the Board of Estimate and Taxation to enter into an employment agreement with Christina Keiterling for the position of Executive Secretary, Senior Advisor. Whereas, pursuant to Section 5.2 of the City Charter, the Minneapolis Board of Estimate and Taxation, or the Board, is permitted to employ an Executive Secretary in the unclassified service, and whereas on February 28, 2024, the Board approved Resolution 2024-002, which created a search committee, the Search Committee, to develop a job posting and commence a search for an executive secretary. And whereas on December 11, 2024, the Board approved a resolution authorizing the Search Committee to create a job posting for the position of Executive Secretary, which was posted under the title of Senior Advisor. And whereas, pursuant to that resolution, the Board Search Committee undertook a search and selected a preferred candidate for the position of Executive Secretary, Senior Advisor. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Minneapolis Board of Estimate and Taxation that the president of the board is authorized to enter into an employment agreement with Christina Keeterling for the position of Executive Secretary Senior Advisor on the terms included in the contingent offer letter dated May 7th, 2025.
Thank you. Just by way of introduction, I'd like to say that Ms. Keiterling has an extensive resume for her youthfulness, and she got her start working in public assistance determination with the City and County of Denver, then went on to work in that area for the state of Wyoming. She was a budget analyst for the Fish and Wildlife Service, and she also was a management analyst for the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, which is a agency of the USDA. I will say that she had the foresight to start looking before the recent budget cuts that affected APHIS and essentially would have required her to relocate had she continued with the agency, as is the case with a number of other employees in APHIS. Apparently, it's not a priority of the federal administration that we keep things like Dutch elm beetles and emerald ash borer out of the U.S. anymore. So I present that to you. I would have sent her resume around. Several of you were involved in the interviews with her, along with Ms. Dye. But I wasn't sure whether I had the ability to do that, since we had, as a search committee, taken a pledge of confidentiality. So that's my introduction. Are there questions? Okay. No questions. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. We have a motion that has been made and seconded, so we have a proper motion before us. With that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the resolution.
Board Member Fry. Aye. Abene.
Aye.
Payne.
Aye.
Chugtai.
Aye.
Vice President Priest-Inson.
Aye.
President Brandt.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
All right, and I would like to break a little bit here from our agenda and ask Ms. Keiterling to address the board and see if she can get through her entire presentation without using the word "sir," which I'm trying to break her of.
Thank you, President Brandt, and thank you very much to the board. I'm very excited to be here. I know that many of you have gotten a chance to take a peek at my resume, but that doesn't necessarily tell you some of the strengths I'm bringing to the position, so I'll start by telling you what I can offer you. My time with the federal government has given me 2 strong skills that I think are highly relatable to the position you're looking for. Number 1, I can complete independent research. It's going to be a different subject matter than what I was doing previously, but I have those independent research skills, and I'm a self-starter. So if you're looking to track down information and make sure that we have a continuous baseline of knowledge on this board, I'm absolutely here to help with that. The second thing I can offer you is that I have the ability to put policy and regulation, to interpret it and to put it into plain language. Again, it's going to be a different subject matter than what I was working on previously with agriculturalists and food scientists, but I still have those building block skills where I'm able to interpret policy and legislation for you and put it into plain language. As to why I'm so excited to be here, when I discovered that my career in the federal government was not going to be tenable to continue, I started to look around and I began to court the city of Minneapolis pretty aggressively, and there's 2 reasons for that. Number 1, I so enjoy the Midwest and Minnesota, and Minneapolis is the leader of Minnesota. I was raised on the East Coast, and then I went out to the Mountain West when I was in college, and so I think that that Minnesota and the Midwest in general is such a wonderful halfway point between the 2. You have a much more relaxed lifestyle than maybe you have on the East Coast, but you have the cultural opportunities that you don't get in other areas. So I have actually now spent the greatest amount of time here in Minnesota that I have of anywhere else in my adult life, and I am excited to continue choosing Minnesota and to stay here. So Minneapolis being such a leader in this state is a big reason of why I want to be here. The other reason is because the benefits package that comes with the city of city of Minneapolis is so impressive. I was losing a benefits package that I very much used and was very sad to lose, and the city of Minneapolis has such an impressive benefits package for their employees, and I think it's something the city should be very proud of, because it not only shows your values, but it shows how much you're willing to invest into your employees. So I'm very excited to be one, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions? Okay. I think it's a tribute to them as well that that benefit package exists, and I know there was some conscious effort after the effects of the pandemic on employees and the belt tightening that had to happen there to try and make this a good place for people to work and continue to be a good place for people to work. Commissioner Fry.
That was an impressive, Mr. President, that was an impressive opening presentation, and thank you. Yes, we do indeed have a good benefits package. I'm just curious, where are you from on the East Coast?
Arlington, Virginia, suburb of Washington, D.C.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move on to the next item, which is, thank you, Ms. Keitling. Announcements are next. Do my colleagues have any updates? Commissioner Priest-Stinson.
Just very quickly to clarify, our amazing new staffer starts tomorrow. And just to differentiate, to make sure that we're all clear that we do still have to vote on the work plan, which we had a version that we looked at and talked about, which is separate from onboarding. So just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. I was jotting down some things, but just quickly, things that onboarding would include everything that any other city employee would have, so tour of facilities, general HR training and communications, data security, LIMS, open meeting laws, those types of things, prioritizing one-to-ones with board members, key and PRB staff, meeting with city clerk, finance office. So those types of things will then transition into the work plan. So I think that by the time we get to our next meeting, we should be phasing out of this kind of initial onboarding and moving more into the work plan phase. And so I just wanted to add that and make sure that we were in agreement that we don't need to vote on onboarding. We're just talking about general onboarding of a staffer as we would for any other position at the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Priest-Stinson. I forgot to add that I was going to ask the board's leave to not direct our new employee on any project-specific research, but rather just give her a general plan of attack for how to approach involving herself in the city enterprise and backgrounding herself in the kind of research that will be valuable in her position and down the road. So if that's okay, we'll go ahead with that as understanding, and we'll work on a work plan. And perhaps it would be appropriate for Ms. Keitling to start contacting, once she feels she has her feet under her, start contacting board members about what their priorities would be for a work plan, and get us a list that we can maybe bring up at the next meeting and set priorities so that we're all on the same page on how she spends her time. Is that agreeable? Commissioner Priest-Stinson.
I would just add that, yes, we should vote on the actual work plan at the June 11th meeting, so we should plan to have that ready. And I would hope that we would co-create that with Ms. Ketterling so that it's representative of what we need, and also we're ready to go, and there's not any confusion or waiting. So we should plan offline any meetings that we need to have, and also to support you in the role of supervising this position, President Brandt, which I'm happy to do that to make sure that we have a smooth transition from onboarding to work plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Priest-Stinson. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we've completed all business to come before us today, and without objection, we stand adjourned.